PlainView started, I broke my hand and I was unable to play guitar. And I was just like, okay, this sucks. I had 3 pins in my hand and I was just like,
dang.
That's a bigger story, but I had 3 pins in my hand here, like going through, and they put them in and pulled them out while I was awake. I was just like, okay. And so I had,
wait, you were awake for it?
Yep. So I had the pins in my hand, and then, I had a cast on over those, so I couldn't like do anything. But so literally I just had like 4 hands, there were like 4 fingers free. That was like kind of all I had. And I was like, okay, I guess whatever. And it was like the end of like the 6th week where I was like about to get it off. And I was like, still had the pins in my hand. And I was like, I bet I could play guitar right now. And I was like, okay, maybe not. Maybe I can only use like 2 fingers. And so I wrote the first riff to the first song that PlainView put out. We'd all been in bands for years. And I just wrote the simplest, stupidest riff that you could play with 2 fingers, because that was all I literally, like, so easy you could play with a broken hand, because I literally did it. And so
I need to learn that riff so that way I can like make people think I'm real good.
That's right. Know? That's right. It's super simple. It's 2 notes, right? So
that's awesome.
Because of that weird freak accident that I thought was like such a terrible thing, ended up putting me in touch with everyone in the band. And then we released our first EP in 2021, and then released Nightlife, the current EP, in 2022, just a few months ago. And then now we're gearing up to go on some tours, do some festival dates this summer, which are announced, and kind of get into that whole scene. And so we needed a few more singles that we wanted to get out in time for that. We kind of moved some release schedule stuff up. So they're tracking some additional things for later in the summer. The stuff that's coming out early summer is, happening already. So yeah, man, that's PlainView in a nutshell.
That's incredible. And had you known the guys before starting the band, or was it just kind of like happenstance?
So it's weird. So we were all in bands in like the same scene, but didn't super know each other. I met Steven would come to my band's shows when my band that I was in first, we didn't have driver's licenses. Our parents were driving us to shows. Steven was like, his parents were driving him to shows. So it was one of those things where it was like, yeah, we know we're like the youngest ones here. So it was like everywhere I would go, there would be this Steven guy who would be coming to like, come see my band play. And he was like the other guy who was super young. We were like, okay, this is kind of cool. Years went by. He ended up being in a band with Andrew. I was in a band with Chris. And we were all the most productive members of those bands, where it was like, everyone was contributing. That was great. But like, we always were the ones that were trying to like push it to the next level. And so we were just like, let's just Megazord this thing and join it together. And they were like, you have a broken hand, you can't do anything. And I was like, wait till I get this cast off, boys. And then we got along super, super well. It was a ton of fun. And then we met Zach through our like one of our tour photographers, Jacob Myers. And shout out to Jacob. He crushed all of our videos so far. He's done all of our promo work and videos and stuff, and he introduced us to our drummer. So close the loop, man.
Dude, that's incredible, man. And so you guys started in beginning of 2021, somewhere around there? Yeah,
like it was like end of 2020, early 2021, like peak COVID time.
Yeah, right as you're realizing, bro, I've got a broken hand. I'm out here shoveling snow. I got to get out of freaking Michigan.
That's right.
But I've got to make some music, but I can't because I got a broken hand. So now you're like in like this miserable place. Got COVID. Just dude, everything's kind of just coming to its
head. I'm just gonna make the saddest music I can think to make, and I'm like, dude, we need some old school emo music. Is what we need.
I mean, and dude, that was the fun thing, dude. Like so obviously the first EP quite a bit harder, a little bit more intense than the second EP. I was just like, dude, this throws me way back. Got the Census Fail vibes in there. You got the Silverstein vibes in there. You got the Sailson vibes in there. And then the newer stuff, there's, a little bit more of the poppier side of each of those. And it's just like, dude, this is where it's at. Cause it's like, it really like, it's a void that like even those bands aren't filling themselves anymore, right? Because Silverstein, their new music's fantastic, but it's nothing like Discovering the Waterfront, which is kind of what I would kind of like put you guys in that era, right? And then the self-titled Seosin album, like that type of, like obviously vocally that kind of helps, right? Having one
of my favorite albums of all time is
same here, dude.
Seosin
Just
album.
That Seosin album was like so incredible.
And I think it's that the songs were there. It's not just that like it was a vibe and it was, you know, the tones were good, like the song structure, like everything in that like Howard Benson, Mike Plotnikoff, Chris Lord-Alge like era, like those three guys churned out an entire generation of kids' favorite albums. They did Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge. They did the second and third Starting Line albums. They did
so that is
Move Along by All American Rejects.
All American Rejects.
They did the Seosin album. It's just like, it's crazy the amount
it's kind of like what Seth Henderson is doing nowadays with a lot of the pop punk bands.
Exactly. It's like, it's like Travis Barker on a track now. It's like, then that was like the combination of success. And it's like, you're so right. I love the new Silverstein stuff. I just saw them actually relatively recently with Beartooth. Dude,
that would be such a heavy show.
No, it was
crazy.
Great. It was so yeah, it was a blast. But it was funny because like I hadn't heard a lot of the new stuff, but I knew all the old stuff. And the new stuff, I was like, it's so different, but I love it. It's totally good. But PlainView doesn't want to be that band that's like stuck in the past, but we also want to give kids an opportunity now to like feel that feeling that we all felt when we heard like Translating the Name for the first time. You know what I mean? Like that feeling. And there's just not a lot of bands doing it. There's a few, which I think is sweet, but it's weird. Emo's back, but in a totally different way than it was.
Yeah. Because it really is interesting because you're right. Like that's something I noticed obviously is you aren't stuck in the past. It's nods to the past with obviously one of the big things that always stands out is production quality has improved so much, even on a lower cost production. It's so much more to it, so much more full. And there's a lot that I think that's why a lot of these bands that used to make that other type of music, like they've started experimenting with so much more. And so like with Silverstein's new stuff, it's much more full. There's so many more elements going on. And it obviously helps when your lead singer is also a producer who just knows a bunch of different things. And exactly. I mean, that's always helpful, but yeah, like you're right. It is a different era. Cause even, the new MyChem song. It's very much a completely new era of emo, and like even pop punk is in a new era of pop punk, and it's like it's a very different world now.
That's right.
But it still needs that original kind of, I don't know, like there's so much heart to that music back in the day, man.
Sure. Well, I appreciate that you think that PlainView can even kind of be in that conversation in any capacity. That's super cool. Those are our like, God tier bands where we're like, oh my gosh. I mean, you look back at the Three Cheers era, it's like they literally nailed it from first to last, nailed it. There's so many bands that just crushed it. And then smaller bands too. There's a band called Cauterize that was from Canada that was just incredible. There was so many bands like that we were just like, man, even like you said, even those bands now, we can't expect them to keep doing that kind of music forever, but
yeah,
who is then, like, who's carrying that on and who's furthering that conversation and like who's moving that like in a direction that is familiar? Like, what if it didn't go the more like core route? What if it went just more emo? And so we just, we think it's cool to even just, say our piece.